Today we're going to be talking about the Naruto series and how it handles the delicate balancing act of being an amazing visual spectacle and still managing to provide some substance and tension to its many action sequences, and whether it stands up to scrutiny or crumbles under the weight of a keen eye. To do this, we're going to discuss 4 jutsu that I think marked key changes and helped to either stabilize and promote the iconic qualities of the series, or accelerated the decline towards valuing a more superficial and flashy style that played to the same notes that many shonen anime have done for decades. Let's begin with Naruto's most iconic jutsu and what really rocketed the series into the stratosphere: shadow clones. Watching Naruto weave that iconic seal and yell out while one of the many legendary scores raged on in the background will always be one of the most hype moments of every episode and played to the strengths of what the show was trying to be. Even if the jutsu wasn't showcased to be the most powerful, as very often it was used to elevate the perceived threat of a villain by allowing them to dispatch hordes of doppelgangers with incredible ease. What it allowed was for individuals to create situations of subterfuge and deception. When Naruto would swap places with clones and use them to divert the attention of his enemies in order to land decisive blows in battle where he was clearly outmatched, helped to overcome the adversity Naruto would face without having to resort to getting a power-up or just throwing a bigger and bigger jutsu at the problem. What Shadow Clones does for the series is allow Naruto, and to a greater extent the show writers, to demonstrate the tactical acumen of the characters and utilize the environment in unique and clever ways to solve the issues and combat the threat they've created. We'll discuss this in greater detail in the third section of this video, because that jutsu really demonstrates the full extent of what I'm discussing here. Every aspect of the Shadow Clone Jutsu does something to elevate the combat encounter and provide the characters something meaningful to demonstrate their competency. The most iconic moment for me has to be when Naruto overcame the almost insurmountable odds and defeated a character who was more hyped than even Sasuke: Neji. In the Chunin exams, Neji was dominating his opponents and needed to be physically stopped by the Jonin to prevent him from completely ending Hinata's life. Then, in the finals, he was still dominating with a mixture of beautiful taijutsu in combination with his Byakugan abilities. Naruto even summoned forth the power of the Kyuubi and still managed to lose in a 1v1 clash. But it wasn't until Naruto utilized his shadow clones and the clever use of his environment, digging underground and exploiting the aftermath of their clash to obscure his position, that he finally gained the upper hand and managed to defeat a foe much more skilled and powerful than he was. This to me is a perfect moment in the show that captures the essence of what makes this series as captivating as it is. Our protagonist overcoming all odds and defeating his foe, not with the power of friendship, a random power-up or Zenkai boost, no. It was his ingenuity and tactics with clever use of his iconic jutsu that allowed him to win the day over. I think that's everything I have to say about this period of the show and particular jutsu, so let's move on chronologically to the next example in the series, which marked a purposeful shift in its direction. The Rasen Shuriken, and to a lesser extent the Rasengan, I think began to mark the decline in how the action scenes played out in Naruto. And let me get this out of the way. I love the Rasengan and pretty much every jutsu discussed in this video, but what the Rasengan did was give Naruto a means to dramatically end each pivotal threat with a flashy and iconic jutsu that could be adapted to fit the scenario. Pretty much every movie villain was defeated by some form of the Rasengan, be it the Rainbow version, Gilel, Crescent Moon, and Supreme Ultimate with Minato. And there are many others, which robbed us of potential moments where he could have done something far more clever than just running in a straight line, yelling at the big bad, and hitting him with a special variant of the same jutsu. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing on the surface, but when it becomes Naruto's plan A, B, and C for how he chooses to deal with a threat, this begins to showcase what we're missing out on. I think this fight in Boruto does really well to showcase what I'm talking about. The scene plays out with spectacular visuals, aided by the smooth, thought-out choreography and teamwork between Boruto and Sasuke. The beautiful incorporation of the Chekhov's gun kunai being the catalyst that allows Sasuke to get the upper hand, and allowing for Boruto to close the gap between himself and Momoshiki to land the decisive final blow. The utilization of the Vanishing Rasengan and Shadow Clones was the icing on the cake of what is, to me, a fairly flawless execution of what the show does best. The characters utilizing simple tactics extremely effectively to not just overpower their foes, but to win tactical advantages through clever uses of their signature jutsu, and leaving us as viewers feeling as if the villain was beaten by ingenuity and brilliance rather than just power level. Contrast that to the defeat of another character. Kakuzu was a unique and powerful threat with a skill set that far surpassed what the expectations were of the show at the time, and made for a terrifying villain. And how was he defeated? Well, actually, if you look at the tactic that Naruto used, it appears to be the same one he defeated Neji with, right? In the scene, Naruto summons a few clones, creates the Rasen Shuriken and charges at Kakuzu, who leaps in the air in order to keep a safe distance from the obvious one-shot jutsu that Naruto is holding. Now above the battlefield, he launches an attack. But somehow, during all of this, Naruto had replaced himself with one of the clones while standing in full view of every onlooker, including Kakuzu, and somehow managed to get behind and above this Akatsuki member and strike him from the rear. Neither in the anime or manga is it explained how Naruto seemingly teleported to this position and formed another Rasen Shuriken, all without Kakuzu ever being aware of a jutsu that creates an incredibly loud whistling effect and is accompanied by huge gusts of wind. Kakuzu wasn't shown to be an unintelligent character. On the contrary, he was shown to be cold, calculating, and very observant, so this completely undermines his character portrayal. Remember, Kakuzu has been around since the time of Hashirama's prime and would have seen countless battles against foes of every notable era. So the fact that he was defeated in this way, this legendary figure, feels more empty than I would have liked to have seen. And this isn't necessarily the fault of the jutsu. Rather, the reliance on it to overcome threats of this magnitude creates a situation where Naruto just spams the same thing over and over, rather than genuinely using clever tactics and broadening his skill set to become a truly great shinobi. We see this again against Pain, where Naruto completely dismantles the Preta path with the use of his frog kata, which is one of the coolest features of Sage Mode that utilizes natural energy as an extension of the body, which really makes him feel connected to nature, and gives him a unique and powerful move to supplement his taijutsu. But can you think of one other moment where Naruto uses this unique and iconic maneuver? No, of course not, because it's not a flashy jutsu that blows up mountains and gets power scalers squirming in their seats. Let's move on to the next section, and it's a topic I've wanted to discuss for a while now, as I think more than any jutsu in Shippuden, it recaptures the soul of the series and showcases a moment where everything was firing in all cylinders. The Sasuke vs Itachi fight is a standalone masterpiece. Two brothers battling to the death with the underlying truth that Itachi was willing to sacrifice himself to see his brother become someone great. The cinematography, creativity, and use of basic ninja tools, tactics, and ninjutsu to heights as elevated as what we saw concretely makes this one of the greatest fights in the series and in all of anime. If I was asked to show someone who had never seen the series one fight from Naruto, this would be the one I would choose. Because yes, while it has big flashy jutsu that are genuinely a delight to watch, it also sticks to its roots and allows the series to be something more than just another shonen with all the played out stereotypical characteristics that people associate with this genre of media. Then, for it all to culminate with what is squarely the peak of jutsu design that encapsulates exactly what a ninja was capable of without the use of god powers, tailed beasts, or even Kekkei Genkai. A jutsu that is powerful enough to decimate battlefields while also requiring a brilliant use of the environment. Of course, I'm talking about Sasuke's Kirin. This jutsu is nothing less than a stroke of genius from Sasuke and was the culmination of years of training with the lightning element, dating back to part 1 with Kakashi where he had learned the Chidori. Kirin isn't just a massive chakra like a Biju bomb, nor does it rely on exclusivity like a Kekkei Genkai or Kekkei Tota like Dust Release to justify why it's so incredibly powerful. We accept that Sasuke is able to manipulate a force of nature because we have seen him honing his skills with this element for the entire series, and due to the parameters necessary to summon forth and utilize this jutsu at all. Let me explain. If Sasuke at the beginning of the fight just weaved through a couple of seals and instantly called forth this ridiculously powerful jutsu, it would have undercut its true majesty, and assuredly, the perception of this jutsu from the Naruto community would have been more negative. But because Sasuke needed to set up the cumulonimbus by launching fire release jutsu into the atmosphere, thus incorporating real-world logic and science as the basis for this jutsu, it allowed us to continue suspending our disbelief in an immersive and logical manner, therefore allowing us to enjoy the jutsu in all of its wonder, without thinking that this was just an ass pull to defeat Itachi. In a sick twist of ironic fate, the very jutsu that was used to counteract this masterpiece is the final one I wish to speak about, the Susano. The Susano is really cool as a concept, with unique designs between each shinobi and customizable skill sets to fit the theme or fighting style of that particular user. On paper, the Susano is awesome, but I think not in the context of the Naruto series. It really spelled out another decline in the series as the characters to whom it was available to spammed it to no end. And why wouldn't you? It's a near impregnable defense with incredible offensive abilities that can cut the tops of mountains in half and combat tailed beast level threats. It's a very versatile jutsu that also acts as a visual spectacle, which is a perfect combination of characteristics if you aren't interested in creating compelling and calculated choreography in the action scenes, which is the opportunity cost we pay as viewers when anime introduce jutsu of this caliber. We lose moments like Naruto vs Neji, where the characters are forced to face adversity in a manner that allows their individuality as shinobi to be the reason for overcoming it. Almost every scene the Susano's in can be summed up in a couple of ways. Either they are stomping around with big sweeping attacks, or fighting another gigantic thing, and I think that's exactly where the show loses the plot. I personally don't feel any tension when watching two giant chakra mechs duking it out, due to how indestructible they are portrayed to be. And even if they are destroyed, it's not like the damage is transferred over to the user like how Komomura's Bankai works in Bleach. So where is the tension, the sense of a back and forth between heroes and villains? These boundaries are blurred to relative obscurity, and jutsu like the Susano and Naruto's Tailed Beast avatar necessitate the series to push those boundaries and scale the power system into unfamiliar and outlandish territories. That, in my opinion, did not end up feeling satisfying as a viewer and someone who deeply adores this show. Look at the Kakashi vs. Obito fight during the war arc, where we see the series return to form and again showcase how beautiful simplicity can be. When the emphasis is placed on choreography and strategy, rather than just creating a visual stimulus, this show provides some of the greatest fights that I can watch over and over without ever getting bored. Over the course of nearly a 7-minute sequence, we see a grand total of 5 jutsu used. I counted. Obito uses his fireball jutsu after utilizing Kakashi's own hand to form the necessary seals, which is just a chef's kiss moment. Kakashi then counters this maneuver, not by ramping up the jutsu, no. He uses the exact right amount of defense to serve the needs of the particular moment with a simple earth wall, which then allows us as viewers to appreciate the power of a simple fireball jutsu in the hands of a skilled shinobi like Obito, a jutsu that is normally not given its proper reverence. Kakashi then uses hiding like a mole technique in conjunction with a lightning release clone, all under the guise of this previous explosion and the smoky aftermath to obscure his position from Obito and launch an attack that literally saves his life, because Obito executed another ninja-esque maneuver by throwing a kunai attached to a piece of his clothing, which catches Kakashi completely off guard. Finally, Kakashi uses his Raikiri to end the battle, which is not only his most iconic jutsu, but carries significant implications between these two characters, as it is the exact jutsu that set Obito on the path to darkness, given that Kakashi used it to take Rin's life. 5 total jutsu is all this sequence needed to be considered one of the most compelling fights in the series. Contrast that to Naruto and Sasuke's final battle, and in just the first minute, they utilized Shadow Clones, Rasengan, Bansho Tenin, Amaterasu, Fireball Jutsu, Kurama Chakra Mode, Chidori, and Sasuke's teleportation jutsu. That's almost 50% more jutsu utilized in just 15% of the time. That's a huge disparity. And despite that, I still think this fight is a really awesome watch, and does a great job of balancing these moments where the characters are just wildly throwing out jutsu, and closer, more intimately choreographed taijutsu to create a compelling sequence that is just as cool to watch, but for wildly different reasons. By no means do I think that Naruto became a bad series because the characters became stronger. Rather, I hold fast to the qualities that initially created that sense of wonder and mystery, the same qualities that created a vast community and thousands of discussions to this day between passionate fans who love the series just as much as I do. Thanks for watching. If you're still watching by this point, thank you. Let me know what you thought by leaving a like and subscribing.